All right, everybody, welcome to the BloxFam Breakthroughs. This is the inaugural episode, so I am incredibly excited to have Kayla here with me today, who was a fellow season 17 contestant with me and my CFO, Jessica. Kayla, I'm so freaking excited you're here. Kayla is someone that we actually met at the airport when we were standing where we were supposed to be standing, where they told us to be standing for the shuttle. And then there was like four of us, and we were like, the people at the desk didn't know what the blocks was. It was crazy. There was four of us. We were standing there. Kayla was one of them, so she's part of like our little like OG little group here. So Kayla, thank you so much for coming on here and kind of chatting through this. I know that there are going to be so many people who can kind of like live vicariously through us, like through the experiences that we had, through our point of views, and just how we've kind of found some breakthroughs and implemented some of the things that we learned. And I think for other Blox family that is watching, they're definitely going to relate to a lot of the things we said, but also we have to remember that a lot of our Blox fam different seasons had different topics and different kind of like things. So I think it'll be super, super awesome to be talking about kind of like our experience, what we learned, and then kind of like share that with everybody. So let's kind of dive in here. So Kayla, why don't you let everybody know, who you are, what you do, the same thing that we had to do 100,000 times while we were filming the Blox. Why don't you give everybody a hello and a synopsis?
And I feel like I said it like 10 different times at the Blox.
I don't think I ever said it the same.
But hello, everybody. My name is Kayla Perlstein. I'm the founder of Goldenbird Marketing. We are an organic social media marketing company that specializes in working with small businesses on brand awareness and community building.
Yes, I love that. So do you feel like, I don't know, let's kind of like, I don't want to start like too deep, but like, do you feel like there is a massive kind of like before and after of what your brand looks like, before you went on the show and after you left the show? Now, for context, we've only been out of filming for maybe a month, a little over a month, maybe like 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So we're about 6 weeks post filming. So yeah, let us know like what did that like before and after look like?
So I had also mentioned this on the show, but I had my business for 6 years, and then I ended up merging with another company, new name and everything, for about a year and a half. And then I basically went back on my own in March. So I was kind of going into this hoping to just learn and to network, because my niche is small businesses. So we were all small businesses, but also just to kind of figure out how I could really rebuild my business and kind of, move in the right direction. So I definitely came out of there learning a lot, but also feeling super validated, which I feel like I'll probably say throughout this conversation.
It's a big topic.
Yeah, but I feel like with everything I'm doing, obviously I can be doing things better. No one's ever perfect, but really just feeling like I'm on the right track. And then since leaving the show, which obviously it hasn't aired yet, so nobody knows anything, but I just feel like in general, I don't know if it was the energy or what, but we've just gotten crazy busy. And I'm kind of scared for when the show airs, because it's probably going to be like times 10.
I think we're all a little bit afraid.
Yeah.
For more context, season 13 just launched last night, yesterday or something, just launched. And I saw some people in the alumni group talking about like, because it like launched, but then like not everybody could see it or something. Like he sent a link, but not everybody saw it. And so people were like getting really nervous. Like they were like nervously talking in the alumni group about how they're like, oh my God, like so much has changed since, and I'm so nervous to see the show, and like, I'm just sitting here like, yeah, I probably have another 6 months to go before ours even airs. But so what would you say like was your biggest, maybe like struggle before the show? Like what do you feel like your business season was when you went in?
What do you mean by my business season?
Like what season was your business in? Were you struggling with leads? Were you struggling with too much to do and not enough people? Like what was the current state kind of your business, and what were you hoping to get out of the Blox when you went on the show?
Yeah. So before the show, I had also mentioned this on the show too, but I'm in a female networking group here in Nashville. We have a lot of workshops. And so I had a business model makeover workshop. So that's where I really like honed in on my target audience, which was great considering the niching aspect that we had at TheBlox. But
Yeah.
I think just going into it, learning how to make my business work and flow better and how to be a better leader with my team. I mean, I have a great team. We're continuing to grow. We've got some really great clients. And obviously, growth is the name of the game as, a small business owner. But I think just figuring out the right steps to do that, and if what I was currently doing was having me on track, which I
Yeah.
kind of learned that I was.
Yeah, and I think that's where the validation piece came in, right? Like, where you were like, "Okay, I'm not crazy." We
Yeah.
live in this world where society is constantly kind of basically trying to make us believe that we're crazy by thinking that, like, what we're doing is right, even if no one is purchasing or interacting or engaging or whatever. Like, that automatically means we're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's total bullshit. So I think that's, like, really good for you to say, that, like, that was something that you felt validated, because
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think that's really important for any business owner. So from that validation, how do you, like, where do you feel like, you came out of the show with more clarity, or just more or all of it? Like, it just kind of came out like feeling like you were in the right direction and just doubling down, or did you make a lot of changes when you came back?
I actually didn't make a lot of changes. It was more just kind of cleaning things up a little bit. But
Yeah.
I think, again, with, starting my own business again in March and just kind of slowly getting that confidence and getting my power back, like this show, I don't even know how to explain it. Like that alone just helped enough too, especially with these judges who own businesses that have made millions of dollars, and they're, creating and selling multiple businesses, and they're telling me that I'm on the right track, maybe look at doing XYZ. And so that, again, with the validation was just, it was a good feeling.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that on that topic of the judges and all of their, whatever, I felt very intimidated, because I was like, an exit strategy? And I
Yeah.
never thought about an exit strategy. Why would I want to exit? But it really kind of like made me think deeper about maybe this isn't the business that I want to exit, but maybe there's another opportunity that comes up that I can build and exit.
Mhm.
Like, sky's the limit. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So, okay, so here we are about 6 weeks post filming. Where are you guys at now? Like, what are you currently focusing on? Do you have like specific I don't know, maybe like offerings or specific types of clients? Like, do you have anything specific that you're like honing in on right now for the rest of the year?
Yeah, well, there's 2 things.
Yeah.
So one is, again, really figuring out that small business niche and just knowing that they don't have a ton of money to throw at social media
Yeah.
and, to sign a contract that's over month to month because they don't know where their business is gonna be day to day. We've kind of honed in on a smaller package for people like that, where it's kind of just straightforward. It's a basic package, but it can help people that can't spend a couple $1,000s on a social media package. On top of that, I'm working with a mentor of mine to build out a subscription option for small business owners that can't even afford a 500 a month package, or 5 to 800 a month. So this is going to be called Dose of Social.
I love
I
it.
believe we've also talked about having a podcast with you coming to talk with us, but we're going to
Amazing.
have 2 subscription options. So the lower one will give you access to all of our resources. So you can kind of do it yourself, but you have everything laid out for you. So it's for small business owners that can do it themselves, that have a social media person that's just not super versed in everything.
Yeah.
You'll also have access to our webinars and any courses we create. And then we're going to have a second option that has all of that, but then you can also have a one-on-one call with myself and Lindsay.
Nice. So it's kind of like dipping your toes in a little bit,
Mhm.
kind of seeing what it's like, seeing what you guys are like, and then being able to have that one-on-one call too. I think is super huge. Like, we're in a very similar season of, like, that's a lot of what we're starting to push to, is more of this like subscription based or membership or some sort of smaller group container that makes it more accessible for those who don't necessarily have a lot to spend.
Yeah.
And so I love hearing that. That validates my idea. Thanks, Kayla.
Of course.
All right, so let's dive in a little bit to like the experience that we had on the show.
Okay.
And I know that we could talk about this for hours and hours and hours, but we're gonna try to like keep this down, because realistically, the people who are probably going to watch these are going to be fellow Bloxers, so like they're gonna like get this. But so okay, so let's like jump into the experience. What do you think was like the funniest moment, or embarrassing, whatever, funny, embarrassing, like think about what was the most funniest like thing that happened on the show? Maybe to you or to somebody else, it doesn't matter. Like what was just something funny that you remember?
I think it was funny. I don't know if my judge for the day would say that it was funny as well, but it was when we were talking about, was it early stage investing? I think that was the topic. It was investing.
Yeah.
And so
I
I
don't know
had,
anything about the money day. I don't
yeah,
remember. I got blindsided by my CFO.
yeah. So I had Patrick as my judge. And
Okay.
so the whole time I'm sitting there and I'm just like, this doesn't apply to me as a service-based industry. Like, why would I have someone invest in my company? And he's overhearing me before we start our 3-minute, pitch. And he was like, who said that? And I was like, me. And he was like, well, my first business was a service-based business and I had an investor and I made blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, like, that's great. So I went and did my pitch. I kind of made everything up. I sat down for my consultation and he was like, are you ready? I said, are you ready? And he was like, oh, okay. So that's how we're going to start this. And he's like, let's talk about tranches. And I was like, no, I'm okay. And he kept trying to get me to play the game, which I didn't do for this specific day. I kept telling him, I said, I would love to sell my business at some point, but to have an investor doesn't make sense. I don't need money for an office space. I don't need money for tech. I don't need money. Everyone's a contractor. The money I have with my clients is what funds everything.
Yeah.
So to me, especially with being so small, it doesn't make sense to give up 20% of my business for what? And so he understood what I was saying, but then kept trying to get me back around, and I wouldn't
I mean,
play
that was
along.
his job.
Yeah.
I mean, we were filming, so I mean, that was his job. But
And so he was like, he started asking me money about financials, and I think was realizing that I kind of knew my shit a little bit.
yeah,
And everyone in the room was laughing. They weren't laughing at me, but they were laughing because I think I was a challenge for him, and he didn't expect me.
yeah,
And so it was just funny. I
that's
thought it was
awesome.
funny.
So obviously, the money day or that fundraising day or whatever it was a challenge. But what else do you think that, like, thinking overall of the experience on the show? This doesn't even have to be like specific to the topics that we talked about, like just in general. We were in entrepreneur prison for 6 days. What would you say
Like
was the
7 days.
biggest challenge that you had personally while you were there?
Well, personally, I think it was kind of two. Personally was the work aspect. I think I thought we were going to have a little bit more downtime to stay on top of things, which I
Yeah.
had prepped with my team before I left. So we were in good hands, but I was very overwhelmed at the airport during my layover. And I think also, and I don't know if most business owners can relate to this, but I'm very behind the scenes. I don't like being on camera. Photo shoots, I do all the time, but I'm super uncomfortable. And so I think having to, and I speak all the time at events, but I think having to pitch for things that I wasn't 100% certain of maybe what the question was, and then
Yep.
having to do it in front of a camera and people, and that that was the most challenging part. Having a
Yeah.
camera in your face 24/7.
Yeah, and to clarify for anyone who might be watching who is not a Blocks alum, yes, we're being filmed the entire time, and yes, we have these rooms that we have to do our pitches and our consultations in. But the kicker, at least for me, was that like Wes would put a question on the screen and it was like 15-minute timer. Go find where the fuck you have to be. Oh, and by the way, while you're finding the place, you also need to be building a 3-minute pitch of, XYZ. And you're like, yeah. And there was almost like there was so much time to overread into the question.
Yeah.
I found myself so many times reading the question like 4 times and being like, I'm hearing 4 different things. One of this actually asking me. And like I was lucky that I had my CFO with me who was able to have a little bit of like an outsider, not outsider, but like just a different perspective on like what the question was,
Yeah.
to kind of help reel me back in. But like it wasn't just the fact that we had to like stand in this room in front of cameras and people. It was that like A, we just learned this content this morning, and B, 15 minutes while I'm running to find my pod room is not an ideal situation. I mean, that was the point, but
And then you think you know what you're going to talk about, and you like spend 15 minutes writing your pitch, and then people get before you and you're like, oh shit.
yeah.
I did that incorrectly.
But that was a double-edged sword for me because I feel like, especially I think on day 1 and 2, because the way that we interpreted the question and built our pitch, and other people would be going and I would be like, "Oh my God." And I would look at Jess and she would be like, "They're wrong. They are wrong. They are not answering this correctly. Like they're not even close to answering this correctly." And so like again, I was lucky to have someone who had the perspective of like, yeah, no, that wasn't what the question was.
Yeah.
But it was a double-edged sword because you were like, oh, that's such a great thing to say. I'm going to say that. And then if you're last, you don't even remember anything at this point
I know.
because like you had yours and then you have everyone else's and who was probably wrong. And now you're trying to like wing it. Like it was so hard. It was, oh my
Yeah.
God, it was so hard. It was so hard. Okay. So that part was, challenging. How do you feel like you coped with that? Or like how did you overcome that challenge?
I mean, I don't know if I overcame
Kept
it.
showing up?
Yeah, I just did it. But I think, getting back into town and a couple weeks later having to do an event and speaking in front of people, it just made me that much more comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
Also, there wasn't a camera in my face the whole time.
Yep.
But yeah, day 1 was brutal. And I feel like some people, because the judges were like, we're starting to see people are feeling better as they're I was like, I don't feel any better. I'm still just as nervous and sweaty, and I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it because that's what we
Yeah.
have to do.
But showed up. So you know
Yeah.
what? You gotta give yourself kudos for that because showing up every day was fucking hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really hard. Okay, so then on the flip side of that, what would you say I don't want to say you enjoyed the most, but like, what part did you feel like was maybe the least challenging for you? Like, what was easier for you?
I mean, the consultation wasn't terrible, but I feel like the networking piece was the easiest part. I mean, we're in a room, well, in a hotel for however many days with 100 plus people that can relate to your day to day. And it was just networking for me, I think, is a little hard in general just because I'm kind of introverted, but being with people that just get it and they're so
Yeah.
open to meeting other people, that was definitely the easier part for me. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you feel like it was the same? Do you feel like it was the same level of easy every day?
Which the
Like the
network?
networking part. Like I feel like everybody did do a really good job of like just planning to sit down with whoever, like there wasn't well, maybe you and your group, but like like a lot of us were just kind of like we're just gonna sit down with some random like wherever there are seats we're gonna go sit down. But I
Yeah.
feel like towards the end it got a little harder because we were just so drained that I was like, I don't want to talk to anyone anymore.
Yeah. And I think the first day too, I mean, again, I'm introverted. So this whole thing for me was crazy, just going somewhere where I know nobody and
Yeah.
having to, present and pitch and all that stuff. But meeting you guys at the airport already just like cut that awkwardness, and
I
it
love
just
that.
made it so much more comfortable.
Yeah. Now this is a question I didn't really plan on asking, but like how did you like hear about the show, and B, like what made you like sign up or apply?
So I heard about the show when I was still with my old business partner. And so
Okay.
I saw an ad on Instagram and I thought it related to us because we were kind of struggling with our business. And so I was like, oh, this could be a great idea.
Yeah.
And I had brought it up. And to be honest, I think if we were still together, I might not have had the opportunity to go. So I had done the application process. And then when I had the final phone call was when I was separated. So I let them know, I applied under this conception and now I'm on this conception. And they were like, doesn't matter. You applied. So whatever it is. And so I really hesitated at first if I was going to do it. And I started researching anything I could find about the blocks. I was finding people that were on the show before and messaging them. And I'm really glad that I pulled the trigger and decided to move forward. And I'm even considering maybe doing it again because they do change up the curriculum. So yeah.
Do you feel like I felt like the casting process was long. I felt like it was like long and grueling. I felt like I think it was like five levels. It was so many. There were emails, there were There were forms, there were videos you had to record, there was
But they
phone
were like
calls, there was
minute-long videos that had a long question, and so you had to talk real fast.
I was like, they're not gonna know what I'm saying, but okay.
And they were like, you only get one like chance to do it, and then the rest of them you have to do it correctly. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, it was wild. And I mean, so because of my background, I fully understand the process now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I fully understand that casting process because they are building the production before the production even begins. So
Yeah.
like I get that now. But like I just felt like it was such a long, grueling process. And then the time in between was like so long, and then the time between the final phone call and like the acceptance email. Like I remember the guy telling me something on the phone like, yeah, you know, you scored well and blah 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 or whatever, and he's like, but you know, we're not having our meeting until next week and like all these things and whatever. And like I got the acceptance email like 2 hours later. I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about? So I thought it was really, really interesting. Okay, last question on this.
Yeah.
Why do you think that you were cast?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know.
I don't think any of us
Interesting
truly
somehow.
know, but huh?
For whatever reason, they found me interesting. I don't know if it was one of the videos I sent in. But yeah, I don't know. It was also interesting because I was the only, I mean, I think you were the only branding agency. I was the only social media marketing company.
There was a couple other marketing companies there.
There were? Okay.
Well, to be fair, I know one has multiple businesses. He was not there for his marketing company, but he has one also, and it kind of played in. But yeah, no, there wasn't like too many.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a pretty good mix. But I'm very curious. I have to add this to my list because I'm very curious to like know if anybody feels like there was something specific that like they got cast for, because I sit with this every day. Like I don't understand. Like I just want to know.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. We
I'm
won't sit
very
with
much
that.
what you see is what you get, and I don't think I'm like that crazy interesting, but I must have said something.
Hey, you didn't like take your top off or something in your
Definitely no.
All right, so let's kind of wrap the experience part a little bit, and let's kind of get to the breakthrough part. So the definition of a breakthrough is a sudden, dramatic, and important discovery or development. Okay,
Mhm.
so when you think to your time on the show and you know kind of where you were at before the show and where you're at now after the show, you know, what specific breakthroughs do you feel like you had because of this experience or like inside of this experience?
Again, I think it was that validation aspect. So really learning that what I'm doing has me on the right track, and I just need to be doing more of it and doing it better. So coming home and just figuring out how to make my funnels better, how to make my systems and processes better. I have systems and processes. They're not necessarily in a playbook. And so
Yeah.
figuring out how I can do that. Um, but yeah, I think the biggest breakthrough was like, okay, Kayla, you're doing something right. Now just figure out how to take yourself from here to here.
Yeah. Like it was almost a like, okay, keep going versus a like, yes, burn it all down and start over. I
Yeah.
think that was something I was looking for. I was like waiting for someone to tell me, yes, you're right. You should burn this all down and start over. I think that I had that just like weird ass mindset before filming that was like, you know what? I just want to go because if someone will just tell me to burn it all down, I will do it.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously it was the opposite of that. But so like in that breakthrough, you know, how do you feel like that breakthrough itself impacted, like how did you transform from that? Like how did that impact maybe the decisions you were making or the way that you were thinking about things? And was that only in like personal or business life? Like was it both? Was it only for your business?
Um, I would say maybe a little bit of both. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily a breakthrough, but my energy just overall was in a completely different place, like a
Yeah.
better place, personally and business wise. I think with business, I've kind of like tightened up on a couple of things with my team just because we're doing things right, but we need to always be figuring out how to do things better. And
Yeah.
so from the things I learned from the blocks, putting those into place, um, seeing how with this new entity that I'm working on, how to kind of get things in place there based on what I learned was a little bit of a breakthrough too, because that's a new situation. So taking what I learned and implementing it.
Yeah, and hearing that, like I don't feel like I have a really good gauge of the percentages of who was pre-launch, who was brand new startup, and who was, like deep into business. I don't feel like I
Yeah.
really got a full grasp of what that percentage was like. I would guess it was pretty even across the board because I mean
Yeah.
I know there was a handful of pre-launch. I know there was a handful of people who had been in business a long time. Like it was a good handful, but I felt like it was just kind of transformative in the mindset of like I crave that energy. Like I didn't know that energy was possible, or I had
Yeah.
really truly never experienced that energy, much less kind of like harnessed that energy and
Mhm.
kind of like actually used it to go do something. And so when we talk about the energy and how just like indescribable it was, I mean it truly is not something I have yet been able to explain to anybody because I, I just feel like an idiot every time I'm trying to because like I can't form words. It was a feeling, and then I took that as this is a feeling I want to learn how to replicate so that I can continue to live in it, but that I can invite others to live in this energy as well,
Yeah.
on a more accessible level. So I love that. That was a huge transformation for me as well. It was like just a general energy, and I never really truly paid that much attention, I don't think, to the energy. Like before the show. Like obviously I know when I'm higher energy or lower energy or I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed, but like I
Yeah.
had never really fully grasped or understood what that type of energy is like. And now I'm like craving it. Now I'm like, how can I replace that? What can I replace that with? What can I build to like recreate that? Like let's get some people in the lab and start stirring the pot. Like how can we get that energy back?
I feel like it was also just being in a room of so many people that get it. Like, I have friends that are entrepreneurs that own businesses and they understand, but for the most part, people don't get that it's Monday today, it's Labor Day, and I'm still working. I'm sure you're still working. I mean, we have the ability to take a break if we can, but they don't get that we don't have a 9 to 5 job. It's kind
Yeah.
of a 24/7
Oh, kinda?
situation.
No, it's more like 48. I don't know, double the 24/7. I don't know. I
Yeah.
feel like I work more than, well, almost just knocked over my desk. Um, I feel like I work way more than 24 hours in a 24-hour time span.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But that was one of the things I talked about on camera when I was interviewed is that, I didn't go to the show to necessarily compete. I knew
Yeah.
that if I walked away learning at least one thing, I would feel great. And then networking. I just wanted to meet people.
Yeah.
And the people alone, I think, helped kind of feed that energy that we were talking about.
I think all of us had the commonality of not understanding that type of energy, and we just soaked in it. I mean, like we all dove in head first to it because it was just this like it was a drug. I mean, I don't know what Wes put in the
Yeah.
water or what these Osagians are using in their like in this hotel, but yeah, it was something. So okay, so what would you say were like the biggest takeaways? Like let's try to get specific here. What do you feel like was one of the biggest takeaways that you took, from the show to go home with? Like what do you feel like that biggest takeaway was?
Um, I feel like a broken record. The biggest takeaway for me was feeling like I was on the right track and I was doing the right things. I just needed to kind of hone in a little more. So we talked about systems and processes the first day, having that playbook. And so now I'm kind of gathering all of my systems and processes from all over the place and actually putting it together. So if, God forbid, I'm not available for whatever reason, somebody is able to take over in that instance. I
Yeah.
think that was the biggest takeaway for me.
Yeah, like that again, that validation of pen to paper, do the work so that it gets done and then you can like move on from there. Yeah.
Mhm.
What advice or, tips do you have for, maybe other entrepreneurs that you can share from this experience that they might not like I'm talking advice that isn't all over the internet, right? Like something that you might have taken from the show that or the experience of just being there and being so stressed out for a fucking week. Like what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs who may not be Blox alum, or maybe they're interested in the blog? Like what advice would you give them?
I don't know if this is something I necessarily learned on the show. We might have talked about it at some points, but this life is not for the weak. I mean, you have to have some type of a hustle mindset, but also you don't need everything to be perfect, especially if you're in pre-launch stage. If you have an idea, like just start somewhere and
Yes.
test. It's the same thing we do with social. I'm sure you do the same thing with branding. You can't just do something because Nike's doing it and you think that it's going to work for you. Nike has millions of dollars. I'm sure you starting out as an entrepreneur do not.
Yeah.
So starting somewhere, testing to see what works for you and your target audience, but also just understand that things aren't going to happen overnight. You're not just going to be handed things. You need to kind of have that hustle mentality and know that sometimes after 5 o'clock when your friends are going out drinking, you might still have things to do.
Yeah. And I think it's important. I love that so many people mention Nike. It's so funny. That Nike is always the thing that people compare. What I think is really interesting about that was that Nike didn't just wake up one day and have $1 million to spend on their advertising either. I mean, Nike started somewhere. Nike started, from somewhere that they tested and they grew and they scaled and they did all of the things along the way. Like it's so easy for so many of us to say things like Nike, Apple, whatever, but like Apple started in a garage.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like it is not it's not it's not an apples to apples conversation. That is a like trying to compare yourself to anyone is not apples to apples, but like especially to bring in large labels like Nike, Adidas, Apple, all these things. It's just
Amazon.
like like that's just like I don't even have a good like funny thing to say about that, but it's just not a fair comparison.
Well, I say
And
that
those
because
places started from nowhere.
yeah, and I say that because we've worked with so many clients in the past that we ask for a competitor for competitive analysis and they'll give like Amazon or somebody that's big and established. You can't compare your stuff to a company like that because again, yes, they did start somewhere
Yeah.
very long time ago and now they have the funds to be doing all the things that they're doing. You're not in that same situation.
But also,
So,
can we open the conversation about like just because Amazon's your competition, why aren't you paying more attention to what Amazon's doing?
yeah.
Like you can I'm not saying like go steal every piece of what they're doing, but if they're doing something right, they're doing something right. So pay attention to what they're doing. It's
Yeah.
okay to do an analysis of your competition and see what they're doing and see what seems to be working for them. Why is that working for them and not for me? Like that's a great way to really like break down who you are as a brand and why something works for Nike but doesn't work for you. There are bigger reasons for that other than the fact that Nike is a very established company. Like there are so many more small details, and I think that not enough entrepreneurs pay attention or are curious enough about the small details, and the small details are what make everything. And that's a huge passion of mine in this next year of really kind of debunking branding and really kind of educating on what building a brand is.
I like that.
Because it's so important. It's so easy for us to overlook. And I see it every day. Entrepreneurs are doing it every day. They're so focused on something like Nike that makes no freaking sense to be worried about. And they're not paying attention to the little things.
Right.
Um,
And I used Amazon because we had a client that we asked for, 2 to 3 competitors and all they gave us was Amazon. I'm like, okay, well, you're nowhere near Amazon. So do you also have a smaller one so we can look at both and compare?
that right there tells me that person needs to better understand their brand.
Yes. Yes.
Send them to me. All right. So let's get to a little bit of a fun part here. So we're gonna do just like a couple of rapid fire questions,
Oh,
and
no.
let me tell you,
I'm good
these
at rapid
questions are
fire.
super freaking random, but that's like the fun of it. Okay. Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee iced always. I don't drink hot coffee.
Ooh, what kind of stuff is inside of it?
Just
Is
a
it
little
just
bit of
black
cream. A
coffee? Oh.
little bit of cream. Not
Ooh.
like so much cream that you can't taste your coffee. Just a little bit.
Ooh, you're one
No
of those.
sugar, no sweetener.
Ooh. Cold brew or just iced
Cold
coffee?
brew or iced, but I've
Okay.
also
'Cause
had
those are
people
very
get
different.
they are, but that doesn't mean to pour hot coffee over ice because I think people do that too. It drives me.
So what's iced coffee then if it's
It's
not
coffee
hot
that they've
coffee poured
made
over
and
ice?
it's, like, sitting in the fridge cold, and then you pour it over ice. You can't
Huh?
pour something hot over ice, it's gonna water it down.
Fair. But what if it was just in my cup for an hour and it's not hot anymore and I was like, "Well, I guess I should make it iced." Can I put
Mm,
ice in it then?
it might not taste great.
All right, I love it. Early bird or night owl?
Night owl. Not an
Yes,
early
all
bird.
day, really?
I
Oh
have
my gosh,
insomnia.
I love that. I feel
Yeah.
like it depends on the day for me. Sometimes I'll get up early and I'll be like, "Boop, boop, boop, boop," and then other times it's yeah, it's bad. What is your guilty pleasure TV show? What kind
90
of
Day
trash TV do you
Fiancé.
watch?
90 Day Fiancé, all of them.
I love it. I love it. I love trash TV. I don't really watch a lot of it, but I really like just like seeing that I'm not the only idiot with a fucked up life.
Exactly.
It's my validation.
It makes me feel better about my dating life. I'm like, "Okay."
Oh boy. Okay, one more. What's your favorite app or tool? So like think tech stack. Like what's your favorite app or tool that you can't live without in your business?
Can I pick 2?
Ah, fine.
Well, Monday.com's the big one. It keeps us
Okay.
organized. I've also learned more about the integrations and automation, so that has been a life changer. And then Canva. I mean, I
Yeah.
suck at graphic design, and Canva can make anybody look good.
On the topic of Canva, have you heard the news about the price jumps coming very soon?
No.
It went up 200%. They are trying to charge over $400 or something ridiculous. Yeah, it's a fun time. But let's not get into like trivial topics here. Yeah, you should Google it. Google Canva price changes.
Okay.
And for anyone who doesn't know what Monday.com is, that is like a project more of a task management system. It is not a CRM, though I do know people who use it kind of like as a CRM.
Mhm.
But I would not classify Monday specifically as a CRM. It's definitely more for your like internal task management, especially when you have teammates. You can kind of like break all that stuff down. So another competitor for that.
No.
Asana. Yeah, we use Asana. Trello was like one of the original ones.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there, but Monday is a big one that I actually know that a lot of people use. So I love that. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up today's call because we got to get back to work. Okay, so Kayla, where can people find you, get in touch with you, chat with you, work with you?
Yeah, you can go to my website, goldenbirdmarketing.com. You can email me, Kayla at goldenbirdmarketing.com. Our Instagram is at goldenbirdmarketing inc, INC.
Okay.
And then
I
my
will
Instagram,
link everything in the description for you guys, so hopefully it'll be clickable, but still
perfect.
tell them.
Yeah.
What's your main platform? Where do you hang out the most?
Me personally,
Yeah.
um, Instagram, but then I'll go down a TikTok dark hole at night.
I refuse to get on TikTok. You will not find me there. People will text me or message me on Facebook like a TikTok video, and I will not open it. I refuse. I refuse to
I
go
love
down that
it.
rabbit hole. I can't.
It's
I
a bad
can't.
rabbit hole.
Okay, Kayla, do you have any resources or any lead magnets that you want to tell anybody about, give them access to, or let them know kind of like what they might find?
All of our services are listed on our website, but like I mentioned earlier, Dose of Social will be launching soon, and it will also be on my website that will take you to the new website. So just follow along and keep your eyes open if it's something
Yes.
you're interested in.
Yes. As soon as you get that link, send it to me so I can put it in the notes, even if it
Yeah,
doesn't work yet, by the time someone sees this. Yeah, because you guys are probably not going to watch this for another 6 months because
yeah.
I don't fucking know. So, all right, cool. Well, Kayla, it was great to see your face again today
Good
since I
to
haven't
see
gotten to
you.
see you since then. We We'll obviously keep in touch and chat soon. But thank you guys so much for watching BloxFam's this is not a reunion. I don't know why I almost just said reunion.
We need a
Cut
reunion.
that out. Just kidding. Okay, so thanks for watching BloxFam Breakthroughs. Until next time, keep on hustling.